The West Virginia Mountaineer football team has unveiled a brand new uniform that they will wear in the 2025 season, and it's causing quite a reaction on social media. I'm going to give you my reaction in this episode of Couz's Corner. Also in this episode, we're going to talk about another revelation. The West Virginia Mountaineer football team had one of the highest attended spring games in the country. What does that mean, if anything? We're going to discuss that as well in this episode of Couz's Corner, so stick around and we'll have those discussions right after this word from one of my channel sponsors. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis around the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Big 12. In this episode, the focus is on West Virginia. Two different topics we're going to cover in today's show. The first one, like I mentioned, we're talking about the brand new throwback uniforms that the West Virginia Mountaineer football program has introduced for the 2025 season. They are bringing back the old gold and blue from 1965 with the light blue state outline on the gold helmet. But it's not just a helmet. They're bringing back the uniforms as well. And the best way I know to show you this, because many of you may not have X, may not have social media. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and do this screen share with you, and we'll take a look at this, and you'll get to see for yourself what these uniforms look like. And for those of you who have already seen it, I'm sure it doesn't hurt to watch it one more time, because this is a really, really well done video by the West Virginia social media team. Let's take a look.
Sensational 63-8 victory in 1965. One of the greatest collegiate games of all time. Running back here at 4 yards and 3 scores.
Very cool stuff. Very well done by the WVU media team, social media team there. They do a fantastic job. I would put them up against any social media team in the country. But that has drawn quite a bit of attention on social media. Many fans like it. Many fans don't. I've put out a poll on X. The poll is still early right now because I just put it out about a little over an hour ago. But as of right now, there have been 179 votes as the recording at the recording of this video. There have been 179 votes. 66% love it. 20% hate it. 8% say, or I'm sorry. 66% love it. 20% say it's just okay. 8% hate it. And 6% really don't care. So right now seems to be a pretty positive response. At least 86% of people say it's at least okay that they like this uniform. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this color scheme. I do love the light blue state outline, and I do like having the state outline on the helmet. What I'm not a huge fan of is the light blue along with the dark blue. I just don't think that looks all that great together. I'm one of those people who likes a lot of symmetry. I don't like so many colors, wearing so many colors at the same time. Just not my taste. But I'm not a huge fan of gold helmets. Actually, gold helmets, right? I don't even like Notre Dame's helmets. But what I do like about this is what it's representing, and that's that 1965 team who won the Southern Conference Championship in 1965. They are one of 15 conference championship winning West Virginia football teams. They finished with a conference record of 4-0 and 6-4 overall record on the season. They had victories over Richmond, William and Mary, Pitt. They actually beat Pitt that year by a score of 63-48. They also had victories over the Citadel, George Washington, and Virginia Tech. They beat Virginia Tech that year 31-22. Their losses were to Virginia, Penn State, Kentucky, and Syracuse. So they had a really solid year, again, won a conference title. But there's another historic fact that I don't think needs to be overlooked in this situation. There was a player for West Virginia named Dick Leftridge. It goes down in history as one of the first two African-American football players at West Virginia. He, along with a guy named Roger Alford. Dick Leftridge was a running back on this 1965 team. Went on to get drafted into the NFL in 1966 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that season, Dick Leftridge had 144 carries for 744 yards and 8 touchdowns, also caught 9 passes for 77 yards and another touchdown. So one of the first African-American players ever at West Virginia was a senior on that team and put up some really good numbers and helped lead them to a conference title. So the historic factors behind this throwback, it's the 60-year anniversary of the 1965 team, and also you had on there two of the first African-American players to ever play, or the two first African-American players, rather, to play at West Virginia. And a bonus, Dick Leftridge from right up the road from me in Hinton, West Virginia. That's right. Hinton, West Virginia is where Dick Leftridge was from. I didn't even know that until I started digging into this. Now, I got that info from Wikipedia, so take that for what it's worth. I'm assuming it's accurate. But I want to know your thoughts on these uniforms. I'm not a huge fan of the collar scheme, to be honest. I prefer the Country Roads uniforms, and I prefer the Coal Rush uniforms. But the historical significance of this, I'm cool with it. I like it. I like paying homage to the old teams, the ones who set the groundwork, set the foundation for the teams of today. So for that reason, bring them on. Bring on the throwback uniforms. Yet to be determined what game they're going to wear them at least as of the recording of this video. It hasn't been announced. I'm hoping it's the Pitt game on September 13th, but we will see. Speaking of Pitt, one of the negative remarks I've seen is a lot of fans, Pitt in the past wore a uniform that was dark blue with a gold helmet. A lot of fans don't like the fact that they feel like it's too close to that old Pitt uniform. But again, I don't really see an issue with that. It's two different colors of gold. They're not exactly the same color. But, everyone has a right to their opinion. I want to know yours in the comments. Let me know. Next segment of the show, we're going to take a deep dive into some numbers regarding spring games and West Virginia spring game attendance and where it stacked up against other teams around the country and why it was one of the most attended spring games in the country. And I'm going to look at the, how big of a deal is that? But before we take that deep dive, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of that segment, the good folks over at Elite Scuba and Adventures. They're located in Northern Virginia. You can find them online at elitescubaadventures.com. You can also find them at social media, on all social media sites at Elite Scuba and Adventures. But they do offer discounts to first responders and to vets, a 10% discount. Even if you're not a first responder or a vet, you can still get a discount by using Couz code 25 at checkout. Again, Couz code 25 at checkout at COUZ CODE 25 gets you a 5% discount. But the good folks at Elite Scuba and Adventures, they offer PADI Discover Diving. They have open water certifications. They do advanced diver and specialty courses, including Dive Master certifications. They offer bundle and save deals on all their services. They host diving trips to Tigert Lake in West Virginia, Key West, Florida, and they do an annual trip to Thailand for some awesome, awesome diving. And for the cherry on top, it's owned by West Virginia fans. These folks at Elite Scuba Adventures are Mountaineers. So if you want to support them and you are interested in scuba diving, check them out, elitescubaadventures.com, and help out a fellow Mountaineer. Now let's get back to the show and the segment they are sponsoring, which is the deep dive into the numbers around the spring game and the attendance. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. We're going to take a look at a spreadsheet that I created showing the attendance of West Virginia and some of the other spring games around the country. So let me get that on the screen for you. All right. Now, when you look at this, obviously, West Virginia you see on the list, if you can see it. Hopefully you can. They are 14th. They had an attendance of about 10,160 at the spring game. That was good for 14th in the country. So not too shabby, right? In a minute, I'll tell you why there's kind of an asterisk by that. I'm going to give you the negatives and the positives here. But when you look down the list, you'll see Florida had the most attended with 56,500, a little over that. Then Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Tennessee, South Carolina, so on and so forth. Now, some interesting notes here. The Florida, obviously, their fans are super excited about DJ Lagway at quarterback. There's a lot of optimism around that program going into the 2025 season. Ohio State, despite being number 2 in the country and that attendance of over 40,000, it's actually a huge decline from what they saw a year ago. As a matter of fact, less than half of what attended last year's spring game. Now, there may have been a lot of coaches around the country are changing the format of spring games. They're not doing true spring games anymore. Some of them just treated it as a practice. And, fans likely aren't as excited about that. So that did affect attendance at Ohio State, but they were still the second most attended game in the country. You had Michigan at third at an estimated 40,000. Oregon, Tennessee, South Carolina, Auburn, then Washington, rounding out the top 8. Then you had Colorado. You have to get to number 9 before you get to a team that's not in the SEC or the Big Ten. Colorado, the prime effect still working. However, they have seen a slight decline each year since he's been there, but they still saw over 20,400 people attend their spring game. Then you have Clemson with 17 to 19,000 in attendance there, an estimated number. Then Oklahoma. Then Syracuse. Now, this was a surprise to me of this entire list. What Fran Brown is doing at Syracuse is remarkable. The second highest attended spring game in Syracuse history. What was number 1? Fran Brown's first year. Last year, when they had even a little more than the 14,483. Now, the article on 24/7 Sports I found this from did iterate, they did say that, that number, that 14,483, that many people did not attend. There were some unused tickets. However, that's still a very, very good number, especially when you consider that Syracuse had never gotten over 6,000 people to a spring game in their history until Fran Brown arrived. So what he's doing at Syracuse is remarkable. Great job, Fran Brown, for getting Syracuse football back on the national scene. To round out the list, you've got Alabama at 13. Only 10 to 15,000 attended the spring game in Tuscaloosa, by the way, that's a drop of about 60,000. However, he altered the format. Kalen DeBoer altered the format, did not have a true spring game, only he basically treated it as a practice. So I'm sure fans weren't super excited about that. Then you get West Virginia, who was at 10,160. Fans are excited about Rich Rod. However, when you look at the numbers from last year, it's actually a decline of about 8,000 people. They saw about 18,000 at the spring game a year ago. Fans were excited about the 2024 season. Garrett Green was a senior. They had a lot of returning pieces on the O-line. They were opening with Penn State. There was a lot of excitement going into 2024, and it ended up being a letdown. But there was a lot of positivity going into 2024. Fan base not quite as excited, but some of that blame does go to Rich Rod. He was kind of playing down the spring game, said there wasn't even going to be a game, even though he ended up playing a game about 90 snaps worth of football. But, the fans probably were a little bit less inclined to attend because of what he was saying about the game likely being just a spring showcase. Then to round out the top 21, you've got Wisconsin at about 78-40, another Big Ten team. Then you have estimated numbers for the rest of these teams, but you had Louisville, Miami, North Carolina, and Indiana all at about 5,000. Texas Tech at about 3, and then 3,000 in Arizona at about 1,500. Now let's talk about the negatives and the positives to these numbers. Now, first let's talk about the negatives. There's some asterisks here. A lot of teams around the country did not even have a spring game. Teams like Texas, Florida State, Illinois, just to name 3, Nebraska. Had those teams had spring games, they likely would have been more highly attended than West Virginia's. At least 3 of those would have been anyway. But they didn't have them. A couple of those teams didn't have them because they're remodeling their stadiums. Some didn't have them because they don't want teams scouting their players and for the portal window, whatever. Had those teams had their spring games, West Virginia would not have been 14th in the country in attendance. So that skews that number a little bit. There was less competition. Also, when you look at the fact that the attendance dropped from a year ago by almost half, darn near half, it kind of takes some of the shine off of the attendance, doesn't it? At least it does to me. But here's the positive. I still think it's a positive sign when you look at West Virginia spring game attendance compared to these teams like UNC, Texas Tech, Louisville, and others, and they had a much higher attended spring game than those teams, even better than Wisconsin, and right there knocking on the door of Alabama, it's pretty darn good. And I still think it goes to show that West Virginia fans are locked in. They're dialed in. They're passionate. They care about the Mountaineer football team. And I think that's good. I think it's good for this to be in the national media. I think it's good for people like me to talk about it. Hopefully someone else will take this and talk about it as well. It's good for 24/7 to write about it. This was actually a national 24/7 article as well. It wasn't on earsports.com. By the way, I will share a link to this article in the description. But yes, 10,160 is not awesome. It's not a super great attendance, but it is better than a lot of other Power 4 teams around the country. And I think that's good for the West Virginia fan base. It's good for the brand, and it shows that West Virginia fans care. And in this day and age of realignment, and when brand value matters, all that stuff matters. And so I wanted to bring this to your attention. I didn't know how many of you had seen that, and I hadn't seen anybody else talking about it. So I wanted to talk about it here on the show. But you let me know your thoughts in the comments section about West Virginia having the 14th highest rated spring game attendance in the country. Again, maybe with an asterisk, but I'll let you be the judge of that. I do want to give a quick shout out to another channel sponsor here, Appalachia Digital, the folks who designed my brand new website at wvsportschat.com. Go to their website, appalachiadigital.com/Couz. Let them know I sent you. And if you want a brand new website, they will help you out. If you need your website to be found easier by Google, they can do that too. Go check them out. They did a great job on my site. I'm sure they would do the same for you. And I thank them for supporting what we're doing here on the channel. And also want to give a quick shout out to my paid VIP channel members here on the episode. You can be a paid VIP member by hitting the join button below or hitting the join button over on my channel homepage. But the paid VIP members of this episode are Al Walker, Kenny Evans, T Jinx 048, H Bar Farkle, and Caleb Davis. Thank you all for your support of my show. I also want to remind you that you can support me absolutely free by hitting the thumbs up button on this video if you thought I earned it. Please subscribe to the channel. Help me get to 10,000. Please share it with your family and friends who like West Virginia Mountaineer sports and who like to watch YouTube. Last but not least, notification bell, so you'll be notified of future uploads and future live shows. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. You may want to check out this other video in the corner of your screen. YouTube says you'll like it. Hope the rest of your day is top shelf. God bless, and cue Country Roads.